Hello everyone, Johnny Hurricane here from Gamers Heroes, and welcome to Best with a Buddy, where Smith and I play through a co-op game, give our general impressions on it, what we liked and disliked, and then give it a 0 to 5 score on our fun as f scale.
Committing to multiplayer games with buddies ain't cheap, especially nowadays when you need to remortgage your house just to fill the gas tank. $50, $60, $70 a piece, it really adds up. In Best with a Buddy, we're going to break down the best and worst of all things co-op, who's going to love the game and who should probably avoid it. Today, we're diving into For the King 2.
For the King 2 is a tabletop-inspired, turn-based strategy roguelike game that supports up to 4 players as you and your buddies battle against the tyrannical queen to save the land of Fahrul. The game introduces a number of new features, including additional classes, a new loadout system, and a formation and positional gridded system for combat. So, who do we think will love the game, and who do we think is going to hate it?
For the King 2 is best suited for strategy fans. Combat is strategic and one wrong choice can cost you dearly.
It's also for tabletop gaming fans because it's hex-based movement, D&D style dice rolls, and interesting character classes and events.
It's for roguelike fans. Constant failure is inevitable, but each time you fail, you're rewarded. Well, unless you fail at the start, but that's on you.
Exploration junkies are also going to love the game because you got to move a lot and there are hidden tiles, hidden events, hidden everything all over the world.
And it's for micromanagers. Every turn is pressure. World objectives and threat constantly change and evolve. You're always fighting the clock. Efficiency and planning is key.
And of course, gamblers. Why? Because the random nature of the events, loot drops, and combat. Anything can go wrong at any time, but all it takes one good thing, and you feel like you're in the game.
If those are the kind of people that are going to love For the King 2, these are the kind of people that are going to hate the game. Busy folk. You won't achieve much in short sessions. You're going to need 5 to 10 plus hours for each chapter, even on the easier difficulties.
The game is also not for adrenaline junkies. Everything in For the King 2 is slow. Exploration is slow, combat is slow, arguing who gets the loot, slow, slow, slow.
If you've got that one friend in your group, everyone has that one friend that run off and does shit, getting the party killed. If you think your group doesn't have that one friend, it's you, you're the one friend, don't play the game.
Not for the faint of heart either, because the game, it's one of those things where you'll have 98% chance to get something right and you'll fail twice in a row and be like, that shouldn't work. It'll happen a lot.
And solo play. It works perfectly fine solo if you're willing to control all 4 characters, but that's not for everyone, so if that's a deal breaker for you, you're probably not going to enjoy this one.
And of course, it's not for console peasants because the game's not out on console. It will be eventually. It's supposed to be out on console in 2024, but no date yet. But once it does come out, it should be good there.
Oh, that was f***ing everybody. Oh, it confused everyone. Now that you know who the game is for and who it's not for, we're going to break down individual elements of For the King 2 so you can get a little bit of a taste on every aspect of the game. We're going to go into the overworld and the exploration, we're going to dive into the combat system, break down the co-op mechanics, and then finally look into the roguelike progression and reward system. 2
of the main features in For the King 2 is the combat and the world exploration. And I'm big on exploration. It's the reason I like Breath of the Wild and any type of game. Open world RPGs are my jam. But in this game, a lot of it's covered by Fog of War. And what you do is you have 4 characters and you roll a dice each time to see how many movements you can get. Generally, it's 1 to 5 spaces. Sometimes weather will screw you, sometimes it'll help you. And what you do is you move out, check out the world where you find these random events. Now, if you don't go check it out, if an event spawns over there, you won't see it. And then you miss the event, which of course is not good because you want to get the event for the loot, the experience, or I guess you can mess up sometimes too. But the exploration is very good because there's always something to see, always something to fight, and potentially even a dungeon. And when Smith talks about that one guy that goes off and explores while everyone else does their own thing, he's talking about me. How'd you feel about the exploration, Smith?
I feel what you said there was completely accurate. The amount of times we nearly died or party wiped because Johnny went off to chase a shiny, it gets frustrating after a while. The exploration in this game, it's so rewarding. Literally every single hex is sort of got this gold shaded question mark on it to show you there may or may not be something cool there. So you may have a clear story objective at all times, but someone in your party, especially if there's 4 of you, is going to wander off. Sometimes you'll find something epic, sometimes you'll find something catastrophic. It just ties into the whole risk-reward nature of the game, and I think it's done. It hasn't changed a lot since the original, but you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think it works absolutely fantastic. I know you like it, Johnny, because you wouldn't stop going away. So let's dive into the co-op mechanics here real quick. So for a lot of different games, there's a lot of different things thrown into the mix that might just completely destroy the experience. One of those things is this weird tether system a lot of games have, where if you're playing co-op, one player can't go too far from the other player and whatnot. So you can play this either as 4-player, or you can have 1 player controlling 4 characters. You can have 2 each. You can have 3 on one and 1 on the other. So it's 4 characters and up to 4 players in any mix or mash you want. There's a number of different things that work really well for the co-op. Firstly is the reward system, which we'll get into in a minute. But as you unlock rewards and as your other players in your party unlock rewards, you can all bring them into the next time. So if you get, I don't know, say for example, a bag of gold as a roguelike reward and you can bring it in on new future ones, other people can buy different items and you can all bring them in. So it makes unlocking stuff a lot quicker and opens up your options a hell of a lot sooner. There's a lot of synergizing and communication required in combat. So a lot of times me and Johnny will be playing. I've got a blacksmith, which is one of the tankier characters. He's got a squishy guy. He wants to stand behind my guy. If I just move out the way, it causes a mess. So you've got to be constantly communicating, constantly strategizing together. You know, some of the weaker fights you can get away with just blagging it and killing stuff till it dies. But sometimes you're going to get caught out. So you really have to work together and communicate during the combat, which is a lot of fun if you're having some banter with some mates. You can take the piss when someone makes a stupid mistake, which Johnny did on a regular basis. But yeah, overall, it's a co-op game made by co-op fans for co-op fans. There's no hidden mechanics that's going to screw you over. You're not worried about tethering or anything like that. It just works really well whether you've got a full group of 4 or just a couple of mates playing. It's the perfect kind of co-op game. So what about you, Johnny? What are your favourite parts of the co-op specific elements of the For the King 2 experience?
Well, you mentioned that the tethering thing is non-existent, which is great. Sometimes I have to tolerate that. Sometimes I have to tolerate that in co-op games, which sucks. The other thing you have to tolerate in co-op games sometimes is campaign advancement does not apply to the co-op partner. In this game, that is not the case. When you unlock the next level, it unlocks for you as well. So when you get all the lore, I get all the lore. Everything is basically split. It's just how we spend our stuff that is different, which you talked about, and that is fantastic. The other big thing, like Smith says, I like to explore, but they have dungeons, they have boats, they have these ways, teleport scrolls, portal scrolls. They have ways of getting the party back to each other in a very fast, like it's almost like they know someone's going to screw off, go do something like I do. And then here's the dungeon. You can call them right to you, Smith. And then Smith will be like, here, we're going in. And next thing I know, I'm on the other side of the map. But I got my events, so I'm happy too. And the other thing you're going to be doing a lot in For the King 2 is, of course, the combat. There are tons of different creatures to fight. Slimes, bats, witches, bandits, pirates, mind flayers. It's all there. And the game, it's turn-based, but it can be absolutely brutal. Sometimes you get into the combat, and it's sort of an initiative order where maybe one of your characters goes first and then like 3 of theirs goes, but it is still very, very fun. Now in combat, you got 2 things you got to mainly watch out for, and that's armor and resistance, which means armor, that means how much physical damage they can absorb. So if you do, let's say 10 to 18, they have 6 of the armor, well, you better get a max hit or you're going to end up only doing a little bit of damage. Same for the resistance. Resistance is for magical, but you need, the best part about the game is that you need a good balanced party. You need physical and magical, because if you try to stack one or the other, like me and Smith have done once or twice, what happens is the game screws you by throwing like a witch with 30 resistance and all you have is magic power, so you get beat. The game is brutal, but it's very satisfying in combat. And how about you, Smith? What did you feel about the combat? I know it was, you thought it was pretty brutal in some situations as well.
It's very unforgiving. Now, we played on the default difficulty, which I think technically is easy. You know, you don't start with a ton of lives, a ton of gear, but it's just the game is very cutthroat. There's certain fights early on that you will not win unless you've been playing for 20 or 30 hours. When you first started, you don't know that, and you die. And then you repeat the process. There are some really, really difficult fights in the game. A lot of them are optional, but when you're hanging around one of these world events, exciting stuff's happening, there might be cool loot, you're going to head in there anyway. It's challenging, but it's rewarding. And yes, it can be unfair, but you know, as well as missing those 98% chance to hits, you might get a special 30% chance to hit on a massive attack and do some crazy damage and save someone's life. So it's a really interesting part of the game, and the new formation system means you've got to adapt. So you can't pick your formation, it's not fixed. You'll load into a fight, and it's randomized to an extent. It's not going to put your squishies on the front line, but it's not going to put your squishies behind your tanks either. So you have to adapt and change your tactics at the start of each fight depending on where your enemies are positioned, what attacks they've got, what defenses you've got. So it makes every fight, even though they're all similar in style, you've got to adapt and change to the challenges ahead each and every time, which makes every fight a really good time. Jesus Christ. So the backbone of the original For the King, and for the same For the King 2, is the roguelike systems. Now there are some new additions to this, but even the original stuff is still stood the test of time. So every time you play through, when you complete certain dungeons, certain pivotal story points, you get lore books. You can then spend these lore books on special items. In the original game, a lot of this was just added to loot pools. So if you bought a fire sword, it would be added to a random sword loot pool that you may or may not see in the next game. Quite frustrating. In this one, it's added to a loadout system, so you can unlock all these different weapons, all these different buffs and bonuses to start with, even classes that you can discover while exploring, which is really fun. You can then choose those as a loadout when you start your next game. So when you go in next, you can pick a trait for your character, which is also a new system. You can pick a different starting weapon, you can pick some gold, you can pick a treasure map, which is one Johnny loved, constantly going off looking for treasure. It's a really simple feature, but it just works really, really well. So you're rewarded every time you go in, every time you fail, you get a little bit something new, and you get to sample it pretty much straight away with most of the stuff. You can start with it and just get straight into the mix. What about you, Johnny? What was your favourite part of the roguelike elements?
I guess for me, my favorite part of the co-op elements, outside of what you mentioned, is the fact that we don't have to unlock individual weapons this time. Like, we're unlocking, first off, most of the weapons were unlocked. There's only a few weapon families, as they refer to them, that you have to unlock, and those typically come after you beat a level or something of that nature, or unlock a character, things like that. But I will say, overall, I am a little disappointed by the amount of unlocks. Like, after we beat it, that was it. I don't really have much I need to go back and unlock. While it was good to be getting the same stuff at the same time, I just don't think that this is one of those instances where I don't think there was enough. But maybe that's just my opinion. How'd you feel on that, Smith?
I think there's enough for, if it was just a completely new game, there's enough. But the fact that For the King had so much, obviously it had a lot of DLC in that over the years. There was lots of new stuff added. And when they combine these weapons into weapon packs rather than single weapons, it does take it away from a little bit. So I think, 50, 60 hours is probably going to be enough for you to unlock everything, which again, is plenty value for money. This is not a full price game, but for someone that just wants to keep playing it, yeah, I must admit, I did want more. For anyone that skipped ahead to this point just to see the score, I hope you stand on Lego and fall down the stairs. At this point with Best with a Buddy, we look to our highly graphical and very impressive fun as f scale, where Johnny and I just break down the game just to its pure level of fun. We're not going to go deep into individual categories and all this rubbish. How much fun are you and your friends going to have if you pick this game up? So Johnny, you go first on this one. What is your official fun as f rating for The King 2?
My official rating, probably not going to surprise anybody, that I'm going to give it 5 out of 5. As I said, the only issue I'm having with it is that I don't have any reason to keep playing until the future DLC Endless Dungeon mode comes out sometime in 2024. What about you, Smith? What's your fun as f score for this game?
I would love nothing more than to shit all over this game so it gets far more views, but at the same time, I had as much fun as I'm ever going to have in a co-op game. I love this strategy stuff. The turn-based stuff is great. The roguelike elements are fantastic. The graphics look really good for what they're trying to do with the style. But The King 2 is the ultimate sequel for me. I had an absolute blast. A 5 out of 5 for me. I absolutely loved it. Some of our longer term subscribers will probably be familiar with this layout. We did Best with a Buddy a couple of years ago, and we struggled a little bit because my mic was absolute arse and it sounded awful. So we kind of left it. We got wrapped up in other stuff, but co-op's where our passion lies. We love playing games with friends. It's the best way to enjoy any of these experiences. So if you've got any feedback on this format, if there's stuff you like, stuff you didn't like, do let us know. We'd love to improve as we go on. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell to get notifications for all of our future Best with a Buddy videos.
Tune in for the next co-op review.
Whenever the f that'll be.
Next week, we'll just be doing Call of Duty Zombies.
No.
Well, all right then. Until the next one, bye-bye.
See ya.